Hi guys, hope you're all doing well. It's been a really tough time for most, and I hope you are managing. My project today is definitely not for the faint of heart. I remodeled my stair rail, the post, and the balusters myself. This is on our third floor, and as you can see, they are way below code. The railing should at least be 34 to 38 inches above the floor level, and you can see this is way below my hip level, which can prove to be a serious safety hazard. Now, there is not much activity on this floor, which is why we haven't done it. But since I was in quarantine, I just wanted to keep busy and get stuff done that I don't normally get. Showing you the safety hazard, you can see that this is a very steep fall. And at the bottom there, I am widening the doorway. I'll get an extra 3 inches, and 3 inches for a doorway is a really big deal. Okay, so I started first with demolition, removing the existing rail. It's both sides I'm doing. The other side is a little shorter, so I decided to go with the longer side first. I don't know what I was thinking. I removed the wood that the balusters were set in because it would not accommodate the new newel post that I was putting in, and I changed that to a red oak. This is 6 inches wide, and I cut it to the length that is needed. As you also see at the end there, the length didn't come up to the edge of the stair, so that's also another reason why I needed to replace it. So I cut it and painted it, and of course, when you're putting it in, you have to make sure it's level. So you probably will have to use shims to get it leveled. It's a very hard wood, so you also will need to pre-drill before you put your screws in, and you have to make sure those screws are for wood. I have to say that I could not have done this project without a number of YouTubers. I watch these guys' YouTube videos at least 20 times each, and I'm gonna, put them below. I really need to say thank you to these guys. Without them, I could not have done this on my own. So this is the newel. These are the newel posts. I got these at Lowe's. That's where I got the best price. And this is the handrail. They are popular, the wood, and I had to stain the handrail, and I painted the newel post. I wanted my newel post white. You also will need a larger size miter saw to cut them. When I cut, I think the saw needed a new blade, so it's a little scraggly there, but not worried, it's going to be covered. So this is the post mounting system that I'm using, and I got this from Amazon. It was $17. Yes, it was $17, and if it's two posts, of course, you're going to need two. Comes with the brackets and the screws, and it hides those using the mold in there, so you don't have to worry, about how it looks once you. Now, the better option would be to use another mounting system where you screw it 6 inches into the bottom of your post and then 6 inches into the floor. This is it. This one I picked up at Lowe's, but I could not use it because I didn't have that solid 6 inches below the flooring. My home is way older, and back then they just laid the flooring on the rafters. But I got lucky because there was a slab of wood halfway between the edge of the stair rail and under the newel post. So a portion of the newel post is really riveted into something solid. So I just used the brackets to mark the holes, then I pre-drilled, and then I just simply screw them in. And you have to make sure that they're level with the bottom of the newel post, or it's not it's not gonna work basically. So that's it after I put all four in. Then I set it in place. Then of course you have to make sure it's level. So that's me just checking how it's going to look with the molding around it. And here I'm checking if it's level. Sorry if the camera is shaking, guys. So I did notice that I was a little bit off. So now I know that I'm going to have to shim the newel post because you see there I'm a little off. So I'm going to have to shim it on the left side to make sure it's level. So pre-drilling my holes and then mounting it. So the screws are going through the wood that I put down into the floorboards. And I was, as I mentioned earlier, I was lucky enough to have a solid piece of wood built into the staircase that went halfway under the newel post from the right in. So that's what made it stable. So here I am, I'm just shimming to make sure the post is going to be level. And there it is. I was so proud of myself when I got to this stage, guys. So this is the handrail stained. I use the color Kona. It's like a very dark walnut. So that's the side and that's the top. And then I had to cut it to fit exactly in between. And you want to have a very tight fit. Now you could mount one of these wood medallions onto the wall. I don't like the oval ones. I think they look a little too traditional for my taste, but I didn't like the look of this either, so I scrapped it. And I was so thankful that I actually found a stud in the exact position that the hand railing was to be screwed in. So, whew, that was one of my major worries. So this is me retrofitting it. So it's not screwed in at all. I just put it in between and I'm checking to make sure it is level. A level is your friend for a project like this. And I don't know why you should level on the side. I have to be honest, guys, I'm not a professional, but this is what I saw the guys doing, making sure it's level vertically and horizontally. And so I know me. I decided that, you know what, let me just mark exactly where this thing is resting when it's all level and in place. And I have my handrail 35 inches from the bottom, from the floor to the top of the handrail. So I mark where it is. So when I go back to do the installation, I know exactly where to put the handrail. So this is the rail bolt kit to install the handrail, and I picked this up at Home Depot. It comes with everything except that piece of handrail template that you see me have there, and the instructions are perfect, very, very easy to follow. So they recommend that you cut a 1/4 inch template, find the center of it, and drill a hole through it, and that's where you are going to mark to put the rail bolt into the wall and into the newel post. Now I'm filming with one hand and drilling with the other, not something you should do, which is why this is happening. So that's where you would place it over the mark that you make, and then you use a pencil to mark that point, and that's how you know you should drill into it. Now the other option is this one, and this makes it easy to tighten the bolt once you have it installed. But the reviews were not that great with regards to the strength. So I decided to go with the rail bolt kit from Home Depot. So on the other side of the wall, I made my template, marked my hole. It tells you what depth to drill. So I put a tape around my drill bit to know how far in I should go. And you're going to do this on the other side, on the newel post, and you simply screw that in. Now there is an attachment that you can put on your drill to screw this in, but I didn't have it. Don't do like me and do this because you can mess up the threading on the screw. So the next step would be to mark the hole onto the handrail itself, because remember the bolt is going to go from the wall into the handrail. You also have to drill a 1-inch hole underneath. This is so the bolt that goes onto that screw can slip in over into it. So that's me drilling that into place. Now, initially I didn't drill as deep as I should, so I had to go back in and drill it a little deeper. So that's me drilling that hole that I'd made the mark on. And that hole, when I drill, I'm gonna go until I get into that 1-inch hole that I drill on the underside. So you can see where my bit came in from the other end into that circular hole. So that's how it's gonna look. When you put it on, the bolt is into the wall or into the newel post, and the screws and that little flange is what you're going to tighten, and that will secure it into place. But how do you get it over the nail? You are now going to have to cut that area where the nail rests there, the screw, I'm sorry, you got to cut that out. So you got to use like a chisel or a saw to cut that length. It's almost like you're making a valley, for want of a better word, down into the handrail. So that's what I used first. It was my first time using this, so I ended up having to go to a hand saw. Then I used a chisel to chisel that out. Now you're going to keep that piece once you take that out. You're going to keep that because you're going to have to glue it back. So that's what you're looking for. So now when you have that bolt sticking out of the wall or out of the newel post, this is what you just slip over on top. So that's a bolt in with that rubber flange and the screw on top. So you're basically doing the same thing on the other side. You mark the center point using your template. You drill in to the newel post. This is a solid newel post. You screw the rail bolt in. Again, don't do like me. Then you put on that rubber flange and the top, the washer. What is it? The bolt, I think, right? The nut or the bolt, whatever it is. I'm sorry, guys. And you put that on. So now you do the handrail, both sides, and you just simply slip it over and tap it into place. So you can see how much higher this is than the original spot there on the wall. Now, of course, I'm going to check and make sure it is level, and it is. So this is where I had problems because my wrench could not fit into the hole, even though it was the size, because it was one of those fat head wrench. So I used this nail sink tool and then the hammer to kind of tap the screw, the nut, until it tightens. Not what you should do. This is why the second option I showed you was probably a better one. So I use my finger to tighten that as much as I could, because you see it's kind of octagon shaped. The sides are squared off. So once I got that as tight as I could with my fingers, I just used the nail sinker and just tap it with the hammer until it got tight, really tight. Now the hole that I drilled in the kit comes this 1-inch piece of circular piece of wood that you will glue in, and then that other piece that you chiseled out, you glue that in so you have a smooth look underneath. And since it's a staircase that you walk up, you are able to look up and see under the rail. So it's important that you do this and then you stain it. So then I moved to making the marks for the balusters, and I decided to go it with the same distance like they did. Code is that they should be no more than 4 inches apart because you want to make sure that not even a baby can slip their head in between. So I went ahead and marked it out. I ended up with 15 holes, 15 balusters, similar to what they had. It's a little less than 4 inches, but that's okay. The maximum it should be is 4 inches. And then I drill into those holes, and you should use a 3/4 inch bit for this. And you can go to a depth of, they say, 5/8 to 3/4 inch. I think I probably went half an inch in. Now, to drill the holes for the top, I just use one of the balusters, sink it into the hole, hold it um, to the side, because remember that you get them at 48 inches, you have to cut them down using a level to make sure it is vertically straight. Then I mark the spot on the side, then I translate the center as you see right there. And right at that seam is where I'm going to put the point of my drill bit to drill the hole in for the top. So I use a 1/2 inch bit for this portion, and then I went to a depth of 1.5 inches. So the balusters, the top comes rounded, and that's what goes up into that 1/2 inch hole that you drill under the bottom of the handrail. And the other end is squared, and you have to cut it. They come 48 inches in length. You can put on, you usually put the shoes on at the bottom. I like to see them at the top too, so I got shoes for both the top and the bottom. And it has a tiny little screw that you tighten it onto the baluster. So you need a little Allen wrench. So you simply slip it in the top, then move it over and put it into the hole at the bottom there, and then you just make sure it's in really nice and tight. And then you use the Allen wrench to tighten the shoe onto both the top and the bottom. Once I had the handrail in, guys, it wasn't, it was smooth sailing. It was just making sure everything, was right. So this is it, guys. This is the result. I am very pleased with the with how it turned out. It is level. The balusters are vertically in the correct position. The newel post is secure. It's going nowhere, because that was my major concern, knowing, the age of the home, and that I would not have access to put a solid piece of wood under the newel post to screw it into. Um, and based on my research, I saved a ton of money here. And you can see that there are about 5 of them that I didn't get to screw the shoe up top because something happened with the Allen wrench. It smoothed out the screws, so I'm gonna have to get new screws to put those in properly. But when I checked to see how much it would cost me to pay someone to do this, I'm looking at close to $2,500 or more, because just to replace the balusters, it starts at say $700. So I saved a ton of money doing this. I did not do it all in one day, because if I did, or spend the entire time on it, I would have been frustrated and given up. I did it, one step at a time. I demolished one day, and then later on I put the wood down on the bottom. Then another day I worked on the newel post, and that took some time. And once I was done, I gave up and I moved on to the handrail, which was the hardest part for me. So I just wanted to show you guys this, that it's doable. Here is my project cost. So it cost me roughly $300. Um, so if I had hired someone, I'm looking at 3,000. Hope this will motivate you. Thank you so much for watching, guys. Bye now.